come in. I'll go back, yeah? Oh, I thought not. Are you coming? Come on then, I've got your hot water bottle. It'll all be good. Oh, I know. Yes. Let's go. Hello YouTube, you crazy people. Well, welcome back to the channel. Thank you very much for clicking on this video. If you haven't already hit that subscribe button, please do so. Show us some love. Your support really does help this channel to grow. The winter is upon us now, and the temperatures are plummeted, the skies are grey, but he's back in his winter pod. He's quite happy to be in his bubble. He's he's put his goggles away now, and so we're out today on another adventure. He's got his hot water bottle. I'm all plugged in. Heated gear is definitely back on now. The jacket's plugged in, the gloves are plugged in, the heated grips are back on. But you know, there's no way you should put your bike away this time of year. You should be out here having some fun. I love this season. It's one of my favourite seasons, winter, more so than summer really. The views open up and you're not sweating your nads off, which is always a downside for me in the summer. It's nice to be out on the glorious days, but when you're on a bike sometimes it's just too hot. Well, we had some good news this week. We got a email, the two of us, saying that we'd made it finalists to the Keis Winter Inspiring Rider, which is a competition that I applied for on Facebook. Somebody actually tagged me in it, and you had to write a inspiring winter riding story. So I did one, I sent it off, and lo and behold, a month later we get a result, and we are grand finalists. And I got to say, there's some big names in this competition, which makes us two the underdogs. It really does. Just getting this far, to be fair, has felt like it's an achievement. And if we get to go all the way for the top prize, then that would be amazing, because that's a all-inclusive trip to Iceland, which is a country I'd love to ride. But if I'm honest, I don't think we got an open L. Not when you look at the names that are on the list. But at the top of that list would definitely be Ricky Vida. He's a YouTube god in his own right, and I've followed him for years. So to be on the same list as him, well, you could say I've already a winner. But yeah, there's a lot of top names, not just him. There's quite a few on the list. But you know, never say never. So at this point, if you could give me a thumbs up, and if you've not subscribed already, please subscribe to this channel. Show us a bit of support, and you never know, I might get to go on holiday with Ricky. So I thought we'd kick this series off, because I'm going to do a series of videos for the Keis Inspired Winter Riding competition. So you can follow our story along the way and see how far we get, and see if we get anywhere, I suppose. And so the first video today is pretty much going to be about me, who I am as a rider, what I like about motorcycles, what my passions are, just to give you an insight to the person I am. And we're going to take you down to the Triumph Visitor Centre. For me, this is one of my favourite places. I definitely like to go there. I've got friends there, I like to pop in, say hello. It's all about motorbikes. It's free. Factory tours are 20 quid, but for 20 quid it's definitely worth it. So if you've not been, get yourself down there, have a look around. So the reason I'm taking you there today is because Triumph has been a big part of my life for 11 years plus, up until 2020. August last year, I actually worked for Triumph Motorcycles as a development test rider, stroke crash test dummy. But it's been an amazing decade. I've had a lot of experiences and adventures that I would never have had without being part of Triumph Motorcycles. I suppose really I'm the Stig of the motorcycle world. It's been a real honour to be able to ride bikes that don't hit the market for quite a few years, and for my feedback and part of my soul really to be blended into these amazing machines. A big part of my job was road mileage accumulation, so a lot of my time would be spent on the road when not doing certain tests on track, and anything from 350 mile a day day in, day out, all weathers. And then from early March 2016, I was one of privileged few that got to do press launches, which I've got to say was a great honour, and became probably the most exciting part of my job for me, was to go and ride with the world press on the release of new bikes. And my first press launch being the Thruxton, which to this day is still the most electric and the best press launch I ever did out of all the press launches that I did. But it's definitely been my pleasure to work with so many amazing people along the way. It really has enhanced the whole experience. My wife also was a development test rider for Trike motorcycles, and she did 10 years up until August last year. And we like to social ride together when we're not working, because in a working day we couldn't go out together a lot of the times because we'd be on different models. Nothing worse than being photographed, the two of you together. It has happened in the past. Spy shots were always a big nightmare when it came to our job. There's been quite a few times we've appeared in the MCN or one of the other magazines over the years, which was always frowned upon. But we do like to then go out and social ride and have some time together as a family, all three of us. And my wife often says, "Can you not stay at home just once?" But the little man always has to come. Wales is definitely one of my favourite places to go for a ride, even social riding, with finding so many places in my working day that I can't stop. You would always have to hide in lay-bys or somewhere where you can't be seen. So there's nothing better than on my days off to get my own bike out and go and re-explore the places that I couldn't actually explore when I was working. And when we're not on the bike, we like to do a bit of kayaking, as that seems to revitalise the soul, and you could just get out for the day and not have to think about anything. And add to that a bit of camping, and life is bliss, whether it be on the bike or the kayak. I've actually bought a hot tent last winter. I didn't really get to use it that much. If you look back at my hot tenting video, you'll see why. They have replaced it, so I'm hoping to do a couple of hot tents on the bike this year over the winter period. Well, we're nearly at the factory now, and we're going to give you a quick tour around the exhibition and give you a little bit of an insight to what they have at the Trike Visitor Centre. And I'm going to go through my top 5 Triumphs of all time, the top 5 Triumphs that if I had the money I'd love to own. Every single Triumph in the Triumph lineup has special memories for myself, but there is definitely a top 5. So thanks for coming along for the ride.
I do.
Quite chilly.
Oh, it's this today. I'm all plugged in.
Oh, yeah.
Heated gear, you can't beat it.
As you can see, Triumph have put a lot of effort and thought into the layout of their visitor centre to give you the best experience and to showcase every single model that they possibly could. When you first come into the exhibition, you come to the behind the scenes James Bond.
The beauty of Bond films is doing something new and fresh. There's no bigger kudos to being on a Bond film than the Trike motorcycles and doing a stunt for real. It's a Bond film. With no time to die, there's a high risk because you're going to do it for real, of just being pushing things every time. We need to find bikes that we're going to be very capable. Riding the Trike motorcycles, they handle the terrain amazing. The guys pushing those to their absolute limit, They need to be 100% confident in the bike. So they weren't going to misfire, they weren't going to stall, they weren't going to break.
So much history for Triumph within these four walls, of different models and different eras, and there's a lot of information for you to take in, and every motorcycle has a plaque that's got some really interesting information from the different time periods all the way through to present day, and there's something for everybody. For me, I love every single bike in here. It's just steeped in history and a lot of good memories. This particular bike, the Orange Hurricane, I'd love to own one of those. Absolutely beautiful. So there's plenty to see. Just take your time to walk around. All this part of the exhibition centre is free to view. There's no charge. You have the cafe downstairs and the shop upstairs, and a lot of the racing history with the Daytona is there with the bikes to see. The Daytona was actually one of my first mileage bikes, and it's what got me into the road mileage side of Triumph design, and I absolutely loved my time on that bike. I probably did about 50 plus thousand miles from start to finish on that project. It was a real eye-opener to how harsh the winters could be. First winter I did with no heated gear, and I've got to say there was days I thought I was going to die. And the bike that I think stands out the most in this whole collection is the Steve McQueen Triumph from the Great Escape. Absolutely beautiful bike, and definitely worth just visiting to visit this bike. So there's plenty to see. It'll take a while to walk around downstairs and just take in all the sights and admire all the machinery. Once you've done downstairs, you can head upstairs. You have a quick glimpse into part of the factory, which to be fair looks quite empty at the moment. Not many bikes in the rack. And you head upstairs to probably one of my favourite parts of the exhibition, which is a lot more detail in how the bikes are designed and the design processes that they go through. It really does go to show how much work and effort from the design teams goes into producing a Triumph motorcycle from start to finish. was another one of my favourites at the time, the Street Triple R, and I did quite a bit of development work in mileage on this bike and loved every minute. It's such a beautiful bike to ride, and it's been class leader for many years. For us as test riders, the first time we would get a glimpse of what's coming next would be the bikes that are in clay. One of my top 5, which is the new Rocket. I didn't actually get to do a lot of development work on the new Rocket, but as you can see, this is the mule bike, so everything's adjustable, chassis, drivetrain, just get the ergonomics and everything how it should be before everything is finalised and goes into a solid frame. The accolade I have for this bike is I'm the first man on the planet to get 3 points and a £60 fine. I kept a clean licence for over 10 years, but this bike just wanted to rectify that. But I do like this part of the exhibition. It really does show what goes into a Triumph motorcycle, and the amount of testing that Triumph put their bikes through, which is just exceptional, and it really does show in the quality of the final product. And you have to do that testing to get to this quality of motorcycle, and they are tested to perfection. So these would be a lot of the tests that I would do. The first job I ever had with Triumph was actually doing durability, which was riding the Pave, which is the cobble track of mass destruction. It's quite a brutal test, one Triumph have undertaken for years. A lot of other motorcycle manufacturers use rigs, but Triumph have always prided themselves in doing it old school, and it is a brutal test. I snapped 22 bikes in just under 2 years before they were ready and able to go. So as you can see, a lot goes in to the 2 to 3 years testing of any motorcycle before it's ready for the customer. I do love these bikes. These bikes were a big buzz for the design teams at the time. There was 2 design teams, and each design team was given a brand new motorcycle and then a budget, and was told to come up with something different, and this is what they came up with. And the first one you can see there, the green one, is my favourite. But I always remember, for the time that they were doing it in the factory, there was always talk and buzz in the air of just who was doing what and who was going to beat who. And it really did give the design teams the scope to think outside the box, as you can see. They came up with 2 beautiful motorcycles. I do like the classic range. Got a lot of fun memories. This is one of my top 5, the Thruxton. Absolutely beautiful bike. It's a brilliant design team on this bike, and it turned out to be a masterpiece of engineering, and it's definitely one that I would have in my garage. The Street Twin, that was a lot of fun memories for myself. I did a lot of 2-up miles on this project with my eldest son, and mainly winter miles. But it's 900s I did like. They were a fun bike to work on, and the end result was a really good range for Triumph 900s. The Street Cut was my favourite 900. I managed to do 1,158 miles in a day on that bike. So I did like the 900 range for sure. And the new 1200 Scrambler, that was another project I did enjoy working on. It was something new, something exciting when they came through, and they are a beautiful bike to ride. Not in my top 5 though. These 2 bikes brought a lot of fun. The Foggy and the Gary Johnson bike. These were built for those 2 to just battle against each other. And there was always such a rivalry between the 2 of them on press launches and different events that they did for Triumph at the time. In fact, Foggy came a cropper on that one, and I think he got stretchered off at King's Lynn. He hurt his shoulder. But Gary Johnson, who's a lovely guy, he is really down to earth, but he used to really poke Foggy and just wind him up constantly all the time. So the rivalry was quite amusing. It was always fun to watch. This is definitely in my top 5. The Triumph 900, I'd say stroke 900, 800, because I did the whole development from the very first Tiger, which was the very first bike I rode, the Triumph, and my very last project, where I did nearly 50,000 miles, road miles on the Rally Pro on the 900. So I think the whole Tiger range is definitely in my top 5. I still own a 2012. Speed Triple, I've owned a couple of those. They're a good bike. Trident is a big seller for Triumph now. I didn't really do a lot of development work on that, but the times I did ride it, it was an enjoyable bike to ride. The T120, I did quite a lot on that, and I always wanted more. I'd always say to the design team, can I not have an R version? I'd like a sit up and beg Thruxton. And it was a good bike to ride, and it was enjoyable to ride in the time I had it, but it was always just lacking something for myself. But then they unveiled this to us, and this is in my top 5. This would be my number 1 bike. And there's a bit of a story behind this one. It's not only my number 1 bike, it's the first bike that I ever crashed in my test riding history with Triumph, and I did come a cropper. But do you know what? I absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. It's an outstanding piece of engineering, and just a beautiful bike to ride, and I would definitely own one of these. And that's the mighty Speed Twin, even though it did try to kill me. But that's another story. Wouldn't stop me owning one. And that's the whole purpose of testing. Happened to me on that bike will never ever happen to a customer. And that's all part of development work, and why Triumphs are so safe and so good. And the quality is just outstanding. Another one of my top 5. Probably number 2 in my top 5. One of my favourites, with those handlebars. I absolutely love those handlebars. And that's the mighty Bobber. And what a beautiful bike that is. I was at the time in development of that bike, I was the second. There's only one other rider that did more miles than myself. I did 42,000 miles in development on this bike. Most miles I did in a day was just over 700 miles. Well, that's it for today. I'd like to thank you all very much for coming along on our little adventure. Give you a bit of more of a insight into who I am as a person and a rider through this journey for the Keis Inspirational Winter Rider. I hope at some point we can inspire you to get your bike out and get out and have an adventure. And definitely come down and have a look at the Triumph Visit Centre. It's definitely worth a visit. You won't regret coming down. There's plenty to see. So yet again, thank you very much. And if you could hit that subscribe button, give us a like for this video, much appreciated. And we'll catch you on the next one.